Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. We're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and we look at life through a biblical lens. We're looking at the differences between political conservatives and liberals and the Bible. I'm referencing a recent survey, a Barna poll, that measured these differences. And it was clear that being politically liberal meant that you were more likely to espouse a liberal biblical point of view, which means you're consistent. The survey is part of a worldview measurement project, which is set to be conducted every February. It was done this year in February 2017, but it will continue every year to assess the state of America's worldview. The current study is just the first in the project. The conclusions? We apparently applaud consistency. For many political and social liberals try to tell us they still hold a conservative religious view, which is at least inconsistent and more likely a form of cognitive dissonance. But I digress. Barna employed 20 what they call belief statements, out of which only one seemed to be universal. Both groups, regardless of age, believe it very important to develop a deeper relationship with God. So is God the all-powerful, the all-knowing, the all-perfect creator of the universe who still rules today? There was a 43 percentage point difference in responses. 83% of conservatives said yes. 40% said no. They were on the low end, and they identified as liberals. The same is true with the idea that man's purpose in life is to know, love, and serve God. Again, there was this 80-40 ratio. That all men are sinners in need of salvation. Liberals are not sure of that. 39% difference. Is the Bible the Word of God without error? The gap is changing. It's now 38%. Does Satan exist, or is he just a symbol of evil? 36%. Did God create human beings pretty much as they are today, just as the Bible said? The 34% split. Is the Bible totally accurate in terms of life principles taught? 33. Is God aware of everything happening and actively involved in the affairs of men? Again, 33% difference. I doubt that those on the liberal side are becoming more conservative in these questions. I think that those that were the highly conservative are drifting down. And I think the liberals are probably drifting a little down as well, and this whole thing is shifting. Is the Bible reliable in terms of absolute moral truth? 32% split. Is commitment and obedience to God the most important indicator of personal success in life? 31. What about asserting your religious faith? 31% difference. Unchanging moral absolutes? 30% difference. Is it important to be involved in deepening your relationship with God? 27%. Important to increase your personal understanding of God's ways as described in the Bible? 27%. Now, if you know human nature at all, you have to believe that just as the liberal understanding and commitment to these unchanging truisms are being reflected downwards, so are the conservatives. The results may have started out somewhere around 80-40, but in some of these cases, the relationship would have been more like 40-12. Meaning, the conservative commitment to biblical inerrancy and authority is far weaker than most people imagine. Now, we don't expect a liberal theologian to believe much about the Bible. I mean, that's what makes him or her a liberal in the first place. Our current president made a fuss about being a church member and a Christian. One of the pastors of his church said he wasn't there very much. And we've all noted that his mouth is not very sanctified, nor his values. But then he's a member of a liberal Baptist church in Manhattan. He's probably consistent. The report indicates that those who consider themselves political moderates were more typically liberal than conservative in the way they answered the questions. And what this means is that liberals don't see themselves as liberal. Not always. Their liberal position is to them a moderate place. So what does that make me in their eyes? It's interesting that one question where most of the respondents embraced the proposition was in the importance of developing a deeper relationship with God. 55% said it was very important. And we do what we deeply believe, don't we? Barna, commenting, said imploring people to just get along by compromising their convictions is not a realistic call to action. Our belief systems form the core of our being. Belief systems drive attitude and behavior. They also drive our worldview. Our worldview drives our response to the world and all that happens in it. We tend to respond to the world in harmony with that worldview. So can you see it yet? We tend to call right what we believe to be right, in harmony with our values, with our worldview. Meaning the people of this world will never get together, let alone get along in a meaningful way until our worldviews are at least similar, which they are not now. Also, those with a biblical worldview are more likely to vote, according to the study. Why? Because our worldview informs us that participation in the direction and leadership of our country is a personal duty. Candidate preference is based on our worldview. If you have a biblical worldview, you probably voted for Trump, whether you liked it or not. 68% did versus 27% for Hillary. Why? Restoring traditional moral values. The others? They're just hoping for more postmodern values. My predictions are that the resolution to the culture war is not likely. It is probably impossible. I believe that choices have consequences. The implications of the choices that we as a society have made since the mid-60s in terms of parenting and education, media exposure, religious training, political influence are now inescapable. Because a person's worldview is developed before their teen years, and the fact that it takes a while for that process to bear fruit. Therefore, the divisiveness we have in the United States today did not emerge with this generation. It's the outgrowth of the principles and the values that were taught, or of those that were not taught, to our children over the last 50 years. Those who were aware in the mid-1960s, the 11, 12-year-olds and up, beginning with those born in the mid-1950s, baby boomers, a tribe that largely did not nurture their own children, allowing greed and luxury to dominate their lives. By the late 1960s, early 1970s, more and more moms and dads were working. TV, cable TV, music, and you think Woodstock? Freedom, drugs, both legal and otherwise, movies, sex, drugs, rock and roll. Rebellion that was not quashed became a lifestyle. Now their grandchildren are becoming parents, if they marry at all, and even if they don't. And we, along with they, are seeing the impact of those choices. Now, they're shocked when their lifestyle and their choices create the chaos that it has to create. We're not. Barna says of all of this, and in the same way, quote, and in the same way, that it took a long time for those choices to produce results, it will take several decades of intentional development of children to alter the direction in which America is moving these days. I say, don't hold your breath.